How does segmenting your customer list get you more sales? We'll be talking about that with John Kolencik on episode 7 of the Pete Primeau Show. This show is brought to you by my book, Sell a Million 101 Tips for Furniture and Mattress Store Owners to Sell $1 Million or More This Year. Get it now on Amazon. This week's guest is John Kolencik, a sales expert, and he used to be in the mattress industry when he first got started. John, good morning. How are you?
Pretty good, Pete. How about yourself?
Good. I'm looking forward to bringing a lot of value to our business owners and sales reps that are on here and RSAs that are learning how to sell more. So, John, we first got together on social media, and I thought that you were an avatar. Can you guys pull up that avatar? And I thought that was so cool. And I said, any dude that does that, he's got to be a cool dude. I got to get to know him. And you were kind enough to invite me to breakfast, and the rest has kind of been history. So tell us a little bit about, when you were a Sealy sales trainer and some of the lessons that you learned while doing that. And I want you to brag a little bit, because if you don't, I will, about some of your successes in a way out, far away territory.
Sure. Well, I was in a situation. I'd just gotten out of a really good job with Pitney Bowes, and I was looking for the next step. And I ran into a friend of mine, and he told me that the next step in my development is not selling to customers anymore, but now selling to salespeople. And I go, that's interesting, selling to salespeople. And he worked for Sealy Mattress Company, and that's how the relationship started and how I got involved with them. Well, short story long, got with them, and you guys know how that business works. Sealy comes out, talks to whether it be J.C. Penney or Sears, or back then when I was there, Montgomery Ward's, as well as the other mattress stores. So I spent a lot of time doing training with them to help them increase their Sealy balance of sale. But what we did was we had created a process called comfort selling. And the whole concept of comfort selling was everybody starts out, one of the most common forms of advertisement in the bedding industry is the lost leader with the two cheap twins for $99. All right. We said, let's throw that out and let's talk about comfort selling, because what's a more comfortable walk when you're walking down the bedding line? To walk up the price scale or walk down the price scale? And that was the whole concept. So instead of starting out this $99 thing, we started out at the $2,200 to $3,000 one. And then every step down was more money in our pocket, because it's harder to work them up the line than it is to work them down the line. So we created that concept, and that's what they had me do. And I started taking that, across to the different Sealy manufacturing plants across the country. I worked in the Detroit plant for a while, but then they wanted me to go out and hit Denver. And the reason they wanted me to hit Denver is because their balance of sale, or amount of sale, versus the other mattress brands like King Coil or Serta or whatever, was the lowest it ever had been. Denver was just totally terrible. Point of the story is they set me up and down in Denver, up and down 25 and north or east and west on 70 to hit every store that was out there in the plains of Denver, Cheyenne, Wyoming, New Mexico, you named it. And that's what we did. And it was a great learning experience for me, because at that time I was still in my mid 20s, and I got a chance to spend time, teach people how to sell, how to comfort sell, but more importantly, show them by doing things the right way that they could increase their average unit selling price, and not only increase what they're selling by an individual mattress, but show them how they don't have to sell as much if their AUSP is bigger, meaning they don't have to have 20 units. They only have to have 10 units if they grow their AUSP. And that was the whole idea. Plus, it makes you a better salesperson, because you're not just rolling over and giving people price. Well, that went really, really well. It culminated in a couple different things. The company Sealy liked me so much, and then also the firms, Montgomery Ward, Sears, J.C. Penney, they liked what we were doing so much, they bought into doing truck sales with us, or truckload sales on consignment. And between J.C. Penney, Montgomery Ward, and Sears, over 3 separate weekends throughout the summer of 1993, we sold just a shade over $1 million. in those 3 different locations because of what we did with the selling and how we put things together. And a lot had to do with, Pete, some of the things that you're going to talk today about targeting the database, segmenting it, and knowing how to go after things in the correct way. And it was after that, Pete, that it was, I kind of hit the top. I was like, do my mime thing here, pushing up against, kind of hit the ceiling. And I was like, so now what's next? And I went to the JCPenney. I was on my route. I go to the JCPenney that's in Colorado Springs. Okay. And by the way, that's the first JCPenney store ever in the United States. I met the granddaughter of the original JCPenney. Really, really nice lady. Well, point of the story is I did my thing like I always do, and it's about this time of year. It was December, and I was doing my training, and things were going well. And you know how it gets. Sometimes, Pete, you're on automatic pilot, right? You're training, you're teaching them, you're showing them stuff, and you're not thinking exactly what you're hitting on unless you really are focusing on one particular thing. But it was a general training. Well, I come back in January on my stops again, and a gentleman, we'll call him Steve, and Steve wanted to talk to me. I was like, what did I do? What did I do wrong? He's like, no, let's go grab a drink. So we went to go grab a drink, and I'm sitting here having my beer out there, and he's looking at me, and he's not saying anything, and it's that uncomfortable silence. I don't know what the situation is. And I go, Steve, come on, man, just what's the deal? He goes, John, just give me a second. He had to compose himself. And he told me how he was doing poorly back in 1993, in that December, how he was not hitting his number. He told me that he was way down. He was nowhere close to hitting his number. And he was nowhere close to getting his bonus. And as a result, it's going to look like his Christmas for what he wanted to get his daughter. He wanted to get his daughter this bicycle, and he wasn't going to be able to afford it. And then he told me that because of some of the things that I taught him in that class in December, that he was able to close business and end on such a run that he wound up hitting his number and making his bonus. To this day, I still get the goose pimples when I tell the story. It was one of the most amazing things. And it was kind of then, Pete, that the sky kind of opened up and the sun kind of shined down on me. And I was like, I know what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to make a difference in salespeople's lives, and I want to help them. I want to help them sell $1 million.
That's awesome. So let's talk about your system and start to peel it back a little bit. The interesting thing for me is your system works with big companies or small companies. So whether you sell B2B or you are a store owner and you're trying to get more bodies through your store, this applies to you. If you're a retail salesperson on the floor, there's going to be some really helpful jewels in here that will help you sell more too. So John, take it away.
Yeah. So what I focus on, I call it from the shop floor to the top floor. Okay. As Pete was saying, virtually everything in an organization. In the time of COVID now, I say that like it's an epoch. In the time of COVID, it's funny, sales skills have never been more important because we do so much more like we're doing here, right? I mean, there's so much more Zoom selling, it's more virtual, that kind of thing. So to be a good salesman, it's never been more important. And to have a good set of basic skills, it's never been more important than it has been now. And what I found is, like you said, Pete, it doesn't matter if it's a bedding store or a Fortune 500 company. It's still sales skills. It's still those basic things, the blocking and the tackling that you have to do. If you don't block and tackle, you're not going to be able to run. It's as simple as that. If you do not do the simple things on a daily basis, or is the word we like to use, grind, if you do not grind it out on a daily basis, you're just not going to be able to be a success. So I looked at, when I first started in the business, like most people do, it was just coming off of the situation in Colorado Springs, and so I wanted to put out my banner. And I start, back. This is in the '90s, so I'm sending out faxes. If anybody remember faxes, you know what I'm talking about. You're sending out faxes to try and get people in, and people come in. I get them on the phone, and they'd be saying, "I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, I'm looking for this." And they go, "John, do you do this?" Yes, I do. John, do you do? Yes, I do. Every problem was a nail, and I was a hammer, baby. You name it, I did it. Okay, and it just took me. I'd say, well, when do you like to get together? And they say, well, 2 weeks. Great, let's schedule a meeting. 2 weeks. So then I had 2 weeks to put together whatever they wanted me to do in those 2 weeks, because when you're starting out, you're doing whatever you can to to get things going. So that's how it started. But then I had a realization come about year 2000. It was about how business actually works on our side of things, and for what I wanted to work in, my holy trinity was sales, marketing, and operations. Okay. Those three things feed each other. Okay. If operations does its job and produces everything, it's going to give a good look to the sales team. If marketing does its job, it's going to give information that sales and can work with. And if sales does its job, it closes business, but it lets operations know what's coming in, better supply chain, get cheaper price, blah, blah, blah. And then I took it and I boiled it and I go, you know what, though? I don't want to be in marketing per se, and I don't want to be in operations per se. Now let's look at it in terms of sales. Sales also has a holy trinity, okay? And it's hiring and assessment, continual development, and lead generation, right? Hiring and assessment first. If you don't got the right people, nothing else matters. You can't. I mean, if you do
That's
not have the
true.
right people, nothing else matters because you can't teach a monkey to change a carburetor. It's as simple as that. Or one of my favorite sayings is, "There's no workaround for stupid." You just can't do it. Okay. So first, you got to make sure you got the right people. You got to hire right, and then if you got people on board, assess them constantly to make sure they're the right folks. Now, if you got the right folks, now you're willing to invest money in ding ding training, continual development to develop them. Why do people always say I don't want to spend money on continual development or training? Why? Because they're not sure if they got the right people, so they don't know if they want to spend the money on these people. But if you know you got the right folks, then you invest in the training because you want that B player to become an A player. And just for everybody out there, C players do not become B players. It doesn't happen. Ever, ever, ever. B players can become A players, and A players can get better, but C players never go up. They just don't. So if you got any people that you would qualify as C, cut them now. A bullet to the brain instead of two to the body. It's always easier. Get rid of them now and find somebody else. And then finally, once you got the right people and you're training them the right way, the mother's milk of business is lead generation. You've got to be able to generate that, but you got to have the right people in there to do it, and you got to be trained in the right way of handling it. But at the end of the day, you still got to be bringing these folks in. You got to know how many things are coming in. You got to know how many calls it takes you to get here. You got to know how many pieces of paper going out over here brings in this number of people, and on and on. You've got to know that. And as a company, it's up to you to know how to handle your database, how to gather information on the people that you're working with and the people that you want to sell to, so you know and make sure that they get the right thing. And again, within lead generation, you got the holy trinity, the three main things in lead generation. Anytime you do lead generation, the first thing is whatever you do, it's got to be relevant. All right, not relevant to you, meaning, look, we're having a sale today. It's got to be relevant to the customer. Whatever they get, it's got to be relevant, because if not, they dismiss it. Like I told you, I started out doing faxes, and so at least they had a piece of paper that they had to move to the side of their desk or crumble up and throw away. Now they just press a button and it deletes and they never see it again. Okay. After relevance, there's consistency. We do not live in a vacuum. Let me ask you this, Pete, last time you went on vacation, did your neighbors stop living, or did they keep go upon their lives after when you guys were
They
gone?
kept going. They kept going,
That's
brother.
exactly right. It just keeps on going, and that's what happens too. If we stop our lead generation after we get it going with good relevancy and touching them the right way, if we stop it, they'll go out and find it somewhere else. They'll go and find a competitor that'll give them that same good information, and you've just lost a customer. So you got to be consistent. Relevancy, consistency, and finally timing. And I'm not talking, necessarily, this is when we're having a sale or this, that kind of thing. I'm talking about knowing your customers' circadian rhythms. Are they morning people? Are they evening people? Do they buy like this? Do they buy like that? What kind of areas do they live in? How do they move? In the bedding world, you've got a couple of different layers of folks, right? You've got the folks who own the stores, you've got RSAs, you've got the actual salespeople. So you've got a lot of different pieces there. They all should know what and they're all different customer bases. You should know what your customer base does. I call it social enclave targeting, or SET. Okay, know what that social enclave is. So in the bedding world, if you got your bedding store is on Main Street, USA, what's around you in a 2-mile radius? Okay, how many schools are out there? What are you doing with them? How many teams are you sponsoring for the suburb that you live in? What kind of groups are out there? Social groups that you can be part of. How are you part of the fabric? Okay. Now, if we take it and we kind of move from another direction, for other folks, look at it this way. So, RSAs or companies, it's the same thing. You want to be looking at those people, that you're going out to. What is it that is relevant to them? What rings their bell? What are they involved in? What's important to them? One of the key questions I always teach people to ask in a selling situation is not, what do you need? Why do you need? Those are the common obvious ones. I make sure that people ask things like, tell me about your goals for the next 5 years. Where do you see your business in the next 5 years? That will tell you how that's going to dictate their buying behavior, will it not? Now, as we go down and we go to the level of selling to a consumer, it might be a little bit different, but the question's still the same. The words are different. We're still trying to find out what's important to them, because we want to find out what dictates their buying behavior, how it's going to influence, how it's going to change. And then it's up to us to archive that information and to make sure we have a usable database that we can get it and we can activate it when we need it. And that's how we go out to the public, and that's how we start to stimulate business going forward. And one of the things we're going to talk about, I hope to talk about today, is my SIT Blitz. Okay, it's my proprietary Blitz system that works again on customers as big as Fortune 500 to folks who have a bedding store, and how to do that. And it's just a matter of working the core business principles that I've been talking about here for the last couple of minutes.
That's awesome. I want to just dive into one thing really quick for my RSAs that are here.
Sure.
So if you're not finding out, so what John is saying to both business owners and to you as RSAs is you have to get to know your customer better than your competitors do. You need to find out, do they have children? How's it going to be used? What is going on in the rest of the house? What's the next project? It's,
Yep.
One sale leads to another, but asking a good overall question about what are your goals for your home right now? What's the project list look like? Get creative, write them down. I'm just spitballing with John right now. So think about
so true.
what you can ask a customer. Go ahead.
Yeah. You're absolutely, you're nailing it, Pete. I mean, the mattress business per se, I want to say, I don't want to say that it's, it lives by this, but I'll say it's a big onus. It's a big onus on sales, right? Memorial Day sale, Labor Day sale, July 4th sale. I want to do a sale. It's based on a sale. So there's these preconceived events that are out there that are supposed to drive customers to us. Okay. You don't want to just leave fate up to that, because you got what Pete's talking about. Know why they're looking for a bed, what's important to them, blah blah blah. Know those different things about them, because some people will do what? They'll wait until July 4th. It might be April, and they'll say, yeah, you know what, my back doesn't feel that bad. I can wait until July 4th when another sale's coming. Or you know what, Memorial Day is right around the corner. I bet there's going to be some bedding. You want to be the driver of these folks. You want to be the one who is driving these folks into the store, not because of a sale. Because when we do a sale, sure, we want to move volume, but we don't make as much money because by definition, we're taking money off the top by lowering the cost. We want to get people when they really want to buy. We want to push people into the stores when they really want to buy, so they don't wait for the sale, or they don't wait to get when the situation's perfect. Because how it is. You're not just competing against Joe Smith's bedding company or a major chain down the road. You're competing against all the other things that they have their usable cash for. They might want a bed right now, but you know what? Oh gosh, now the carburetor goes, and so they got to take it in and they got to get their car fixed. Okay, but because they didn't buy the bed when they first started to feel their back feeling sore, because they were going to wait until Memorial Day for that sale, the carburetor takes first issue. Whereas you could have got that bed before they got the carburetor, and you're competing against all these other products that are in the marketplace. It's not just the competitor; it is also all the other products they can buy with their usable cash.
Let me dive into that very quickly. So what John's talking about when we're translating this for an RSA, we're talking about outcomes. Waking up happy and pain-free is an outcome that you get when you have a great night's sleep. Now, what are the outcomes that they want? That's just one outcome if you're selling mattresses. If you're selling furniture, what's the outcome that you want? You want your guests to be relaxed in your family room. It's not the Taj Mahal. It's not a formal living room. You want them to feel at home, and you want the kids to be able to play without, hurting themselves on a glass table. So,
Yep.
or a table with sharp corners.
Charles
You,
Revlon, Charles Revlon of the Revlon makeup, he once said famously, he goes, "We're not selling lipstick in the stores. We're selling hope.
yeah,
The hope that they can look like, Cindy Crawford or Bella Abzug, whoever it is, whoever the beautiful girl is that they got, or whatever.
yeah,
That's what they're doing. Or another way to put it is, you're not selling quarter-inch screws. You're selling what the screw will attach to. That's what you're selling. What is that screw going to hold on? Because without that screw, maybe the whole car falls apart. For want of a nail, I lost my kingdom, right? And that's what and that's what Pete's saying, the outcome. Okay, you're not selling the bed, you're selling what the bed does. And that's what so many people miss, and that's why they wind up selling on price, and that's why their AUSP goes down, and on and on and on, because they're not selling the outcome. If you're selling a good night's sleep, if you're selling somebody who travels a lot, and as a result when they come home they want to rest so they can hit the day, if you're selling what that bed provides to them or what that furniture provides to them, all of a sudden cost loses its onus. It goes
yep,
down. It mitigates itself. It never goes away. You guys know this. It never goes away. But the more things that bed or that furniture or that or whatever product you sell does, the more things that it does for you, the less that it costs, and the
yep.
more it's an investment.
That's awesome. I'm going to take a break and do a quick commercial. Let me take a moment to tell you about my free Facebook group. And John, you're part of that Facebook group. Pete
Yep.
Primeau Sales and Marketing. Whether you're a business owner or a sales professional, whatever industry you're in, you'll find daily tips and motivation to help you be better at sales and marketing. Join today. Look for the Pete Primeau Sales and Marketing Group on Facebook. And that concludes my commercial, John. John, we're getting into some good stuff for RSAs. Let's back it up just a smidge and talk to our business owners a
Okay.
little bit and how your
So
system helps them.
sure. So with business owners, they do what? And any business owners up there, please feel free, hit me up, 216-347-6729. Give me a call. The worst case is you're going to get a couple ideas from me. Okay. So please, RSA, same thing, salespeople, please, 216-347-6729. Anytime you got any kind of questions. That having been said, let's set that aside. So business owners, what do? You wake up in the morning and we talk about outcomes, right? What does a business owner think? How are they going to feed the the beast? How are they going to pay the bills? How are they going to pay the manufacturer? How are they going to pay the salespeople? How are they going to pay the admin assistant? How are they going to pay the people working out in the back? That's what they're thinking about. So they spend all their time thinking about how they're working in the business. All right. And as a result, it doesn't allow them to work on the business to improve things, okay? Because they've got to worry about, like I said, oh gosh, shipping, because they're the one-man quality control or one-woman quality controls. If shipping doesn't go well, if it doesn't get stacked the right way, they're the ones who make sure that has to happen. Or if sales are down, they're the ones who have to make sure that sales go up by putting together a promotion, whatever it might
Right.
be. So they spend a lot of their time working in the business instead of on the business. And as a result, you never really grow past what you can do as an individual because you can only do so much as an individual. I mean,
Let
you may be
let's
Matrix
stop.
Man, but sure.
Let's stop right there. And I just want to say one thing to all my business owners. There's one word you have to get very comfortable with, and the word is no. No. You have to get good at saying no. No to your people. No to a vendor who wants to show up without an appointment. No to 100 other distractions that you get in the day. You must get good at saying no. John, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I had to
No, no,
because at
no,
60 years
no. Get it?
old,
No, no,
thoughts come into
no,
my
no.
head and they fly out like butterflies.
No, 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 you're fine. Uh, Well, and it's funny you say that. I always say no is my second favorite response when I get from a customer. Okay, my second, because I first want a yes, but if not a yes, I want to know. I want something definitive. But going back to business owners, you're absolutely right. You got to get control of your schedule, and the only way you can get it is by saying no. And so as a result, because if they can't work on their business only gets to a certain level. And that's where I come in. What I do is I work with the business owner, and I can be their force multiplier. I can be that guy who works with the sales department. I can be the guy that can come up with the marketing while they might be working on something else. They might not be able to afford to bring somebody on like myself full time, but they can bring me on for a week. They can bring me on for a day. And then what I do is I help them set them up, give them the system, and let them operate it. One of the things that I noticed, and I back all the way up when I first got into this business. I treated things like a regular consultant. I tried to hang on to business, or as the saying goes, I was too worried about holding on to my business that I wasn't doing my business. So what I realized was that companies don't want somebody like myself to be with them forever. They want me to have a beginning, middle, and end. Okay. They want me to tie it up in a bow and hand it off to them so they can take it and run with it. And that's what I pride myself on. Okay. And customers Pete, customers are shocked when I say, this is the way it looks, how we'll get started. This is what's going to look like in the middle. And then when I wrap this up in whatever time frame that we decide, they go, wait a second, you mean wrap up? You mean you won't be? No, I'll still be there. You can give me a call anytime, but there'll be a time when I'm not here on a daily basis. And they're like, okay. And they're kind of shocked by that. But by knowing that there's a beginning, middle, and end, they realize that then it's on them to do something. And the way you might say, well, gosh, John, that's kind of silly. How does it benefit you? Well, I just got done tying up this wonderful, beautiful package for them and handing it to them and letting them go out and operate this wonderful package, whether it be a SIT Blitz program that we'll talk about, whether it be a hiring program on how to do that, whether it be how to do certain kind of training, and I let them run with it. And then when they need something else, they'll give me a call because they know that I'm not going to sit there and try and bleed them dry. My job is just to see them make a jump. Okay. And when we talk about lead generation, oh, that's great. I love that. The shop floor to the top floor. That's the matrix blueprint on how to get things done. When we talk about, lead generation, what do sales do? Sales provide spikes. Okay. Whoop, we go up. And then whoop, we go down. Okay. July 4th came. Look at that great weekend we had. And then what happened on the weekend of the 11th? Whoop, we went down because everybody bought everything on July 4th. My lead generation system teaches you this. It's about incline, plateau, incline. Incline, plateau, incline, up, up, up. That's what you want to get to. And then by asking the question, what are your goals? You know how far up the mountain you want to be. Do you want to be this high up the mountain or you want to be this high? And you know what? There's no wrong answer for a business owner. If they say that they want to cash out after 5 years, buy Icon deals. If they say that they want to run this for 25 years and then hand it off to their son, fantastic. But that's the whole point. Your business can't run on the ups, downs, ups, down, because it's not predictable. We can't sit there and say, I'm going to order this many beds from Pete this week. I'm going to order this many beds because you don't know what it's going to be on the ups and downs. You want to be predictable with the incline, plateau, incline. Incline, plateau, incline. Keep on going up. Or, to use a phrase that's being used a lot in the land of COVID now, you're trying to establish a new normal in selling, okay? A new normal in sales. Spikes aren't new normals. They're spikes by definition. And by definition, a spike goes up and a spike comes down. You want to establish a new normal at that plateau. And we just got done talking about the working on the business instead of in the business. So now you have that incline, you're at that plateau. Now at that plateau, you can do what? You can start working on the business. We got our business up to a certain level. But then you say, the plateau is not going to last forever. I'm going to start going back down. And then you guys start planning for the next incline and going from there. And that's the essence of the lead generation that I teach folks and how to do it. It's about that up, plateau, up, not up and down kind of thing. Or, in radio phraseology, one of the things I like to talk to customers about is that customers are generally dialed into their own radio station called WIIFM. What's in it for me? That's, they take it, whether it be digital or whatever, they tune into what's in it for me. And it's the same thing. It's the modulation. You don't want the big frequency modulations. You want it nice and tight on an upward climb. That's what you're looking for. And wherever you want that business to go on that upward climb, that's okay. Is it, is it $10 million a year? Is it $20 million a year? Or is it $5 million a year? Is it sell after 5 years? Is it have something that you can give to your son or daughter? That's what you want to be able to do. And by asking those questions like, what are your goals? Where do you see your business? That's what I try and find out from my customers to make sure that they get what they need and I can help them on that incline plateau, incline trajectory.
That's awesome. Hey, I got to pay the bills. I'm going to read a quick chapter in my book. And for those of you who already have my book, we're going to be on page 43. Segment your database. How appropriate, huh, John?
Absolutely.
Maintaining a usable marketing database of prospects, current customers, and past customers is very smart and is a huge, valuable asset for your business. One of the smartest things you can do with this database is to segment it or slice it and dice it so you can send specific and targeted messages to sublists. Let me explain with an example. Let's say you have 1,000 prospects in your database and you have full contact information, that is name, mailing address, and email address. You're good, doing good if you got all that, by the way. That's not in the book. For this example, this is your full list. You could then create sublists from the complete list based on towns each person lives in, send out a sales letter or emails with the headline special sale for people who live in XYZ town. Follow up marketing would stress the same targeted message. The simple yet effective use of targeted message will increase response since the person receiving says, hey, this is for me. The only efficient way to do this type of targeted marketing is to specific people. This advanced strategy could add thousands of dollars of extra sales every year. More importantly, the more targeted your marketing is, the better the relationship will be with the customer. With leads, which leads to better testimonials and more referrals. Two things every business has to have in this new world that we live in. That's not in the book, but I added it. Your list must be segmented by product categories as well as upsell offers. If someone buys a mattress and protector, but not sheets, frames, and pillows, separate marketing campaigns can be developed to maximize the value of each customer. This is a long one, guys. Did they buy a bedroom with no nightstands? If they move to a bigger house, do you think they would appreciate an offer to buy the nightstands before their group is discontinued? Because that happens. Of course they would. When I worked at Kronheim's Furniture, we advertised and offered many children's correlate bedroom groups. Today, this information would be in our customer database on a computer. Back then, I kept it all the customers' information on a 3x5 index cards. At one of our sales meetings, we found out that one of those bedrooms were discontinued. I ran back to the store. I sorted through my index cards and I called all my customers. And I helped my customers buy thousands of dollars of furniture that they needed and wanted. 6 months later, one of Joe's customers came into, and this is actually true. Joe Green, God bless you. You're probably not with us anymore. Shame on you for not calling your customers. One of Joe's customers came in to buy the discontinued set. They never received a phone call from Joe. What do you think they thought of Joe at that moment? They were not very happy, folks. Not happy at all. The words unprofessional and apathetic come to mind. I could write an entire book just on this one, but we must move on. So whether you're a business owner or you're a salesperson working on a floor, segment your list. And listen, I know we get some sales reps out there. Guys, segment your list. If you have mattress stores and furniture stores, segment them. If you have low-end furniture stores, medium-end furniture stores, and high-end furniture stores, and maybe even boutiques, separate those and send different messages to them and sell to them in a way that is more relevant to them than you could otherwise target a message. So whether you're selling over the phone, whether you're sending an email, whether you're sending a direct mail piece, Make sure it's targeted, and that's all I have on that guy. But kind of went on a rant, which I am perfectly
No,
capable
no,
of
no. That's a
doing.
good. It's a good rant. It's a good.
What
It's
comes
a
to
rant that
mind,
I.
John,
It's
when
a,
you hear that?
no, it's a good rant because it's. I'll tell you a story. I'm sure everybody in the audience here knows Art Van. Okay, and when I was in Detroit, one of the, or not one of, but multiple stores that I worked on was Art Van, and I'll never forget one of the things that we did at that time. It was, I believe it was the Troy location. This is again early '90s, so please. I might not remember I think it was Troy location. But anyways, the point of the story was this. We were talking about the database. And at that time, you know how the database, ran. There wasn't much computer stuff. A lot of the database was 3x5 cards. Okay. Just like Pete's talking about here. And I'll never forget, they were talking about, well, we got this and all this information, da da da. They're complaining about their database and how bad it was. I go, well, you got to clean it. You got to segment, you got to do this, you got to have the right, but then you got to clean it. You got to make sure you got the right information, because it doesn't matter if you got a billion 3x5 cards. If the wrong information is on it, it does not matter. So you've got to keep that information consistent and relevant so you can get things out there to the people the right way. So no, that's not a rant, Pete. You're talking about mother's milk there. That's necessary to succeed in a business.
So I remember years ago, do you remember 6-hour sales that we used to run
Yeah.
many, many years ago? And the liquidator that was running the sale, that was contracted to run the sale, looked at the store owner and he said, "Is this list clean?" He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Is this list clean? Are these addresses good? We're about to spend a fortune on direct mail and radio and other means of reaching out. Is this list clean?" So what John said is so important. Make sure you have, don't assume that because it's in your computer that it's 100% right, because it's not.
That's right.
If
And I'll tell
something
you what,
could have
and here's
changed,
the here,
somebody could
here's
have
the side
written it
benefit.
down wrong. Go
That's
ahead.
right. And here's the side benefit. I'm sorry. Here's the side benefit to cleaning up your database and doing it regularly. By cleaning up your database, it forces you to do what? To touch your clients, to talk to them. I had a customer that when they were kicking and screaming. It wasn't in the bedding industry, it was in manufacturing, but they were kicking and screaming because they had thousands upon thousands of people that they had to touch, manufacturing reps, you name it. And they're like, oh, this is such a complaint. After they did the cleanup of the database, they came back and they sat me down in a room. They go, John, we want to talk to you about the database project. I go, okay. And, not dissimilar from before. I was like, okay, what did I do wrong? Tell me about the project. John, the database project, we wound up selling about $250,000 just from cleaning up the database, because they reached out to customers that they hadn't for so long. And it ties together, with one of the things I wanted to talk about was the SIT Blitz. Okay, so I was working with a manufacturer here in Cleveland, a company called Mazzella Lifting Technologies, and the manager of the Cleveland location, and I did blitzes for them all across the country, all very successful. The lowest dollar amount that we rephrase that, the lowest dollar amount that the revenue, because a blitz isn't just determined based on how much is done in one day, it's based on how much you get over the period of time. The lowest dollar amount that we got from a blitz over a certain period of time was $1.5 million. And I'll never forget the Cleveland one, because the Cleveland sales manager was a prideful guy, and Cleveland was and is a great location because it's the mothership of Mazzella. And so he told me, John, I know where every crane is. I know where every shop is that can use our stuff. I know. I go, okay, fine. Okay, good. We're still going to do the blitz, but that's good that you know all this information. So it was funny. So we get the blitz, and by the time we get done with the blitz, we uncover not 100 cranes and new locations that he didn't know about, not 200, not 500, but 750 in the first day. And then the next day that we did the second day of the blitz, we found another 300 or so. So through the course of 2 days, he found 1,000 locations and cranes and things that he didn't know that existed. My point, and what does it mean to the bedding world, is there are some people that we stop calling or stop doing things with. They're not going to buy. They're not this. You don't know that. Don't make a decision for your customer. Pick up the phone and give them a call. Clean up your list. You never know. Circumstances might have changed. They might have gotten a raise. They might got a new job. They might have won the lottery. Who knows? But now maybe they're ready to buy something. And by cleaning up our list, it's not just a perfunctory task that's admin based. This is a sales thing, because you don't want an admin person, calling us. Do I have Pete Primeau? Is this your phone number still 216? You want the salespeople to call and clean these things up, because they can call and ask the questions and maybe close business off of that. And it's just a way that you make money by actually doing something that's good for your business.
Yeah. So to my sales reps out there, I was responsible for a Chicago Blitz years ago when I worked for CERTA. And when we finished the Blitz, I forget exactly how much business we got out of it. It was a 3-day Blitz. It required about 3 to 4 months of pre-planning and then another 6 months of following up after that. But we got close to 4 million. It was over $3.5 million. And we asked ourselves a question, our management team, what could we have done better? And the biggest mistake that we made is exactly what John just told you guys. We had our secretaries at our factory call the list to clean it, and it should not have been cleaned by secretaries. It should have been divided up, and it should have been cleaned by salespeople who would have tripped over meaningful sales opportunities and probably closed them before the Blitz even started. So listen to what John says. He knows it's a very important uh, aspect of your business. Another thing I want to share with you is a personal story. So I'm selling. My goal was always to sell $1 million as a retail RSA. And I get this book called Selling Retail by John F. Lohan. And in that book, it said, and I later met John, and I later became an administrator for his course and talked to him, and some of the stuff that's in there, I've been repeating for the last 30 some years. But getting back to the one thing that I took away from reading that book the very first time is I was sending thank yous to customers who bought. Big mistake. I'm not saying don't, but what I am saying is you should send a thank you if you're an RSA working in a store to everybody that buys from you and everybody that shops with you. Because a few weeks later, after I thought a deal was dead, absolutely dead, they bought somewhere else. They came in and they said, Pete, do you remember us? And I said, yeah, I wondered what happened. Well, we bought at Furnitureland. I said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And they laughed and they said, but we're going to buy from you. And I go, you want to explain that? And they said, sure. We bought from Furnitureland, and then a day or two later, we had a thank you from you. But the salesperson at Furnitureland did not send me a thank you. And when we called to check on our status of our delivery, all we did was get the runaround. The salesperson never came to the phone, never talked to us, and we felt like we were orphans. So we are coming back here right now to buy from you, and then we're going to go over there and cancel the sale. So
One of my
point.
I love stories like that, because it backs up when you hear old adages. And one of my favorite adages is, you can always determine the character of a man not by what he does for somebody who can help him, but by what he does for somebody who can't help him. And that's exactly what Pete's talking about. These people, he sent something out to somebody who didn't buy from him, who's not helping him, and as a result, it turned into business for him. And that people, we get beat on by our sales managers, by our owners. Talk to people who are going to buy. Only talk to people who are going to buy. Well, guess what? The people who don't buy, they're going to buy somewhere else, okay, or they're going to buy down the road. And if we don't treat them as prospects all the time, or we've heard the treat strangers like friends, friends like family, family like we can't do without them. I use the same thing in sales. I say treat suspects like prospects, prospects like customers, and customers like you can't do without them. And why do you treat customers like you can't do without them? Because you can't. All right.
True.
Even if they're just a suspect, I mean, I don't care. You treat them like they're gold. And I love when customers will ask me, they'll say, well, gosh, John, you were full bore. You guys can kind of get the idea what I'm like. I'm a little, animated. You're full bore, energetic, da 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 da. What's going to happen now that we've signed up with you? Are you going to calm down at all? Oh, no, no, no. back then it was just the courting. Now you're getting crazy Uncle Fester every day. I'm going to be in there all the time. This is just who John is. But it lets them know who you are by touching people, like I said, when they can't help you. When you do that, they're like, holy cow, if this is what he does when he can't help me, what is he going to do when he actually has a financial stake in this? Think about the power of that message. If he sends out something, if Pete sends something out to you when you didn't spend any money, but now I got a financial stake in it, how much more invested are we going to be in that? It's a great lesson for people to learn, Pete. Great lesson.
So, John, this show is available as a podcast and on your favorite platform. And search for the Pete Primeau Show. John, what's the phone number they should be calling if they're listening to this on an audio podcast in their car? What's the phone number they should be calling?
Call me at 216-347-6729.
Awesome. Well, let's get back into your system. And, one of the things that strikes me about your system, it's not spray and pray. This is a system that is surgical. It requires that you do some hard work as a store owner and as a salesperson. You have to do some work to get this system and get it to work. But in the process, if you're true to John's process, you're going to know your customer better. You're going to understand niches of customers better. And you're also going to know how to target media better too, which isn't what this is about. We're talking strictly sales here, but the byproduct of getting to know your customer better is that you're going to be able to reach them better with marketing, not just with a sales effort. So, John, I'm sorry, I talked enough.
No, that's good. No, it's good. And so let's talk about, something specific. Let's talk about my SIT Blitz. So my overall, and I've been saying sit, sit, sit. And everybody's like, okay, John, what the blankety blank is SIT? Well, funny, my brother, he's a loan originator. He's out in Virginia. Great, best salesman you ever meet. Better salesman than me, all right? But they use a process they call the drip technique, okay? They drip, 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 staying in touch with somebody. I go, Frank, I've got to come up with a better name. I'm not calling it the drip technique. So I came up with SIT, or stay in touch, okay? Stay in touch. So my SIT lead generation, and from that, its progenitor here, the SIT Blitz, what I teach folks is a simple methodology. It's called setup, okay? And that's an anagram standing for strategy, education, tools, user interface, and then of course performance and production. All right. So the idea is I give, like I said, beginning, middle, and end, Pete. I give people the tools that they had to set this up, and if they use setup, it's not just for the Blitz. They can use this for all lead generation, because the first, let's talk about the S, strategy. We've been beating that up like crazy today, with the segmenting of the database. So I won't talk a whole lot more about that, but that's what we're talking about. And you said it yourself, Pete. It took you how many, months for the planning? I usually say between 60 and 90 days pre-event, you got to start planning for this, and you've got to dig in. You got to make those phone calls. It just is what it is. And then the E, education. All right. So one of the things we do is it's not just about the education of what they learn strategy wise, but it's the education of what they need to do. So store owners out there, let me ask you this: have you ever heard a salesperson in your store sound like this on the phone? Phone calls in. Hi, ABC Furniture Store. How can I help you? Oh no, sorry, we don't carry Sealy mattresses. Thanks for calling. Bye bye. All right, instead of asking the question, which is, oh, you're looking for a Sealy mattress. What Sealy mattress are you looking for? What is it you're looking about the Sealy mattress? What is it, what are you looking for in a mat? Instead of asking those questions, that's that education. You tie the education to the strategy. If you're going to hit certain marketplaces, certain social enclaves, tie that education to those places, so it actually has the relevancy when you're actually out there. Remember that word, relevancy? It has the relevancy when you're out there. And then the T, okay? Once you get there, then you need the tools. And that's something that I do for you too. I help you put those tools together. Now, in your guys' world, it could be anything from flyers to digital to things that you want to have given away on the floor when you're there, or it could be things that they'll actually get after the sale. Okay, we're coming up to New Year's now, and one of the best Blitz promotions I ever did was a starting the new year promotion. I don't know if you guys know this, but you can go and buy bottles of grape it's not wine, but it's grape juice that look like champagne bottles. And you can get it for like $2 a piece. We invested about $150 or about 75 bottles, and we targeted very specifically people we wanted to hit. Start the new year well. Go and buy this new product. Blah blah blah. I won't bore you with the details of the new product. Do you know how many meetings we went in that bottle was still sitting on that person's desk? When we got there, and that's those tools that you use. It's not, it's what helps you get in the door. What's going to help you close the business? It's got to be something relevant, something consistent that they get, and then they're getting it in the right way. Then the user interface. All right, that's both
Did
on
you?
the customer side and your side. They've got to
Let
be
me
able to.
interrupt you. Let me interrupt you. Did you mail that to them or did you leave it behind?
In this particular case, it was a leave behind.
It was a leave
Every
behind.
situation. Yeah, the whole purpose of knocking on the door was finding out that Pete Primeau was this particular position at this company, and they got this bottle of sparkling grape water or sparkling grape, whatever. And then there was a follow-up call that went from that, and then and because it was, what we were going under the premise is we didn't want to disturb, these folks. We wanted to get them something. And then when we make the phone call, it's not, hi, my name's John Kolencik. I was calling to see if I can sell you this. It was, hi, you might have got that bottle of sparkling grape. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. Yeah, thanks. Well, I got it over here at Five Below. You're pretty funny. You guys can get that too. And now you got a conversation, and it's not sales. You're having a conversation with somebody. And that's the whole point. And that's what those tools help you do. And then that ties to that user interface part, because now you got to, between you as the person who's executing the blitz and then the person that you're trying to get involved with the blitz, the customer, do you have that interface going? Is it a conversation, or is it just about sales? That's why the database is so important. That's why the strategy is so important, to know the things to talk about. You don't want to have conversations just about betting. You want to talk about little Joey's softball game. You want to talk about Marianne's, volleyball game. You want to talk about, that this guy is now, he's a Cub master in the Cub Scouts. Whatever. That's the conversations you want to have, because that will lead to better relationships. And when you have relationships, it's not really selling anymore. It's just doing business with people you know. And then finally, the P, okay, the production and performance. You can have all the great strategy in the world and wonderful tools, and education was out the window, and the user interface, everybody's connecting. But if you don't perform, if you're not tracking it, and Pete said, I think you said 3 to 6 months follow up after, you've got to keep on following up after these things, because it's not just about what happens that day. It's about that follow up, because now we've also opened a new door to get more information about them, to build our 3x5 index card. I'm just joking. Okay, of course, we're putting in the computer, but to get more information about it, and we follow up, because you know what? Maybe now it's not the right time. But one of the great mistakes in sales is what? You know what, John? I'm not going to buy this right now, but give me a call in a week, because that's when we're going to be ready. So you give them a call in a week, and what do they say, Pete? What do they say when you give them a call in a week? As a general rule, here's a little test for you. Call me back in a week. You call them back in a week.
I'm busy. Call me back in another week.
Or they say, oh, John, if you would have just called yesterday. All right.
Oh,
So the
I hate those.
the rule of thumb is, somebody says call back in a week, you call back in 3 days. Somebody says call back in a month, you call back in 2 weeks, and on it goes. So you get my point. It's about that timing and knowing when to get back in touch, because it's not just saying, I'll get back in touch with you when it's ready. You don't know when they're going to be ready. Who knows? Maybe they just went to Vegas and they popped $600 on blackjack. Who knows? And so now they can go out and get that mattress. Take advantage of situations, because you don't know, because that next situation that comes up might be they blow a carburetor, or last week, Pete, my daughter, I think I told you, you probably saw, she broke her arm. You know what I mean? These little, all of a sudden, boom, there's $1,000. I wasn't planning on spending $1,000 last week, but there it goes. You know what I mean? So it is what it is, and that's what happens to consumers too. So we've got to take advantage. They say call back in a week, we call back in 3 days. They say call back in a month, we call back in 2 weeks. You don't know. Things change in business, and for business owners out there, let me ask you this: does not your business landscape change like that? Oh gosh, all of a sudden a driver's sick. All of a sudden a factory can't produce. And it always starts like that, right? You hear, your admin, your secretary says, hey, it was the weirdest thing, but all of a sudden, and it starts like that, and you're like, all of a sudden, what now? And so you've got to take advantage of the opportunities when they're there. And that's what the setup does. Setup allows you to take advantage of the opportunities when they're there. and not wait for them, not wait for that artificial, Memorial Day, not wait for that artificial 4th of July sale. Get on top of the situation before it becomes a situation.
So your blitz, if I understand right, this is in between. It's in between your holiday sale. So you're doing your
Yeah,
big holiday promotions. This kind of evens out that valley
yeah,
that maybe some retailers are experiencing, right? And
yep,
they can kind of go up to a plateau and then shoot to the thing, go up a plateau.
yep.
So, John, obviously, in an hour show, we cannot get into all the details of how to execute one of these for a furniture or a mattress store. How should somebody get in touch with you? Somebody that says, "Hey, listen, that John Kolencik guy, he sounds like an interesting guy. I need to do something to help my stores do better during these, non-peak times where I have all this business around my holiday sales, but then, business isn't good. The store, the traffic isn't as good as it should be. And how do we execute one of these blitzes? How do they get in touch with you, John? I guess that's my point.
Starts off with the phone call. 216
Okay.
347 6729. It's just that simple. And like I said, folks, the easiest thing to do is to pick up the phone. The hardest thing to do is actually to dial it. We pick up our phone every day. The question is, do we actually dial it? And what I'm trying to tell you is this: the worst thing that's going to happen is, I promise, you're going to get some kind of idea or something that you heard from the show or something that you can weaponize right now. Okay. The best thing's going to happen is you're going to say, "Gosh, John, we should be doing something like this for your organization." And I'm going to nod my head, say, "Yes, you should be."
So there you have it, guys. Call John today at 216-347-6729. And he also has an email, John K at Matrix Impact. That's the name of his company.com. Send him an email or call him. He answers his phone, I know from experience, and he answers emails. And this is one of the most talented sales guys I've ever seen. And let me tell you
Thanks.
something. He started in our industry, guys, and he has branched out into all kinds of industries. And because of that, he can give you so much more value than somebody that's just been bumbling around in our industry for years. And, he has lessons that other store owners don't have. He knows things from other industries that could be applied to your store situation to help you make more money. So call John today. John, you got anything else? Are we good?
No, no, we're good. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Make sure
Happy
you eat enough
Thanksgiving.
turkey. Absolutely. And
Happy
everybody else,
Thanksgiving,
happy
guys.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.